Hey, welcome to the Straight Shot Post podcast. Today we talk about what we learned going to our first career fair and about how timing can be super tricky. And stay tuned to see how I throw a little curveball in the middle of the episode.
I'm actually going to jump right into it this week because it's been quite hectic over here. And I just wanted to sort of start by mentioning that I think that us doing this podcast is one of the coolest things. I guess it's just cool in a way that I didn't think about it. I did say I wanted to start this really as sort of like a journal, sort of chronicling all the things that happen here. And I think because things move very quickly when it comes to a business like ours, and went to a job fair over at NYU, just looking and scouting young talent. And I had never been in a public environment like that. Grace was with me, of course. And I think it was extremely revealing of like many things. I would say there's a couple of things. Number one, I think I am at least, I know this is going to start on a weird point, but I feel like I'm very consistent in my values, as in...
You're consistent in everything.
Yeah, but this one was like, there were several good reasons why I didn't have to go. I'll list a few of them so you guys aren't really left completely hanging, but there's a couple of things going on at the company that I guess technically are good problems, but they're still big problems that I have to handle. And I'm also an introvert, and I already had Brittany, our incredible producer, not of this podcast, but at the company, who would have gone in my stead, and yet I decided that it was important that I would go because it was the first time our company was at like a public thing, I guess. And I'm glad that I did it, even though it made today a lot more stressful because there's a lot to figure out and less time to figure it out in. And on top of that, we have client stuff, of course, coming in hot. So it's definitely, but regardless of that, I'm pretty proud of the fact that I guess I did it anyways. So before I jump into my side of it, because I didn't really actually interact much with you, even though we were standing next to each other for a couple of hours, what was the experience like for you?
It was pretty weird because I feel like we've done a bunch of networking events, both in film and in comic spaces, where we're talking with other, business owners, other creators. And there's this thing of this weird relationship of like, it feels like you're trying to sell yourself. Everyone's trying to sell themselves, And so it's about trying to get people's attention. But here in the career fair, we have their attention like 110%. The people who show up to these things, well, some of them are, passer buyers who are like interested and like, oh yeah, I'll sign up. But most of them are really eager to get an internship or a job. So, they're actually interested and want to learn more. So it was really fun to talk to them. And it was strange for me because I just graduated in May, a few months ago. And to be on the other side now, selling the company to people who are my age was interesting. It didn't feel like warranted, but it was cool to be part of a cool company to sell.
Yeah, I definitely was not expecting the attention, I guess. I don't like being the center of attention either. So it was definitely an adjustment. I guess one of the first things I learned, maybe these are some tips for those of you guys who do any kind of convention type stuff. This is the first time we did anything like that. So here's a couple things to learn. Number one, match the energy of the person. So like right in the beginning, like they were standing and I was sitting and it just felt so weird. And so once I stood up, and also if you're a little taller, you can see past some of the people. And I thought that was good because what would happen is they would come in waves, but then I'd see 2 or 3 people in the background that like were maybe thinking of coming up, but like could have passed, and immediately I can catch that and be like, hey, there's room for everybody, or come join the conversation. And I felt like we got a couple of people that were on the edge that way to come and, listen and have a chance to garner more interest. So I thought that was like a really big takeaway. I also thought that we had done some decent enough planning beforehand to make sure that the company that says that, we care about technology was the most tech savvy one there. So we were the ones with laptops and computer screens playing our reels and having digital things for them to put their email in, as opposed to like everybody else who had a lot of like paper type goods, more analog stuff. And so that is something that I think we could do better. And then I have a small thing that I think is actually really big, which is be very conscious about how you speak with your hands. If you're a hand talker like me, I'm Puerto Rican, to be really aware. Basically, I would say like, oh, we have this side of the company here and this side of the company here. And then they would look where my hand was, like I was pointing at something relevant on the table, and there was nothing on it was just...
Well, but next time we'll make sure there's something on the table so you have things
that represents it, But basically I learned
yeah.
Keep your hands up and kind of be a little bit more up here with it, because the moment that you start pointing at shit, they think you're pointing at something that you look at.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so some tweaks to that, and just a lot of self-awareness got built about my language, my communication, making sure I know the crowd. I definitely have issues like with authority and stuff. Sometimes not authority, what's the wrong word? Sometimes I like to be spicy, so I definitely had to... I like to push people's buttons and stuff sometimes. And, I think it was important that Grace made sure that I remembered the crowd that I was in and sort of how to best communicate for them, and to not let my own emotions, to remember to keep empathy first. Right. So basically, there was that. I guess another thing was, getting some feedback actually from the sort of professors, from the staff over at NYU, who actually said some very nice things. And it feels good because we've been going to them for interns, and obviously a lot of our hires are from there as well, to see that our company has sort of grown in its reputation over at the school. And there weren't that many companies that were at the job fair, but they also told us there were people that were really looking forward to post. So I guess that's the last thing that I'll say, which is I feel like post-production has become more popular since I was in school.
People coming up to us being like, oh, I'm taking an editing class. And I remember someone said that at NYU they had to expand the editing classes into 2. Used to be 1, but it's growing. So, I mean, I'm sure the pandemic has something to do with that, I'm guessing.
I think it has a lot to do with the internet. I think kids grow up wanting to edit on YouTube and stuff like that, and just learn how to, and also just general access, right? So like when I was in school, think about like, if I was 10 to 17, how difficult was it for me to get a computer with an editing program to edit, right? Like Final Cut costs a couple $100, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, now people can just edit with like a native app on their phone that they get for free with the phone or whatever. And I think that access to it, and then also just the prevalence of content that they're seeing and wanting to sort of be a self-taught creator, I think has really blown up and opened up editing as a craft in general, which is cool. I think I dig it. There was like a whole plethora of people, even people that just were interested in it, that come from it, that were actors or, tradition, had a different craft. We had 2 of the grad students that were in cinema studies, very curious about our company and what we had to offer. And I thought that was really cool in general.
I get that. I very much spent a lot of time during the pandemic editing my own videos just for fun. And I got a kick out of it. And I that probably was what inspired me to apply to Post House, because it's like, I don't know why I applied, because I had rudimentary skills that I taught myself. I can't even do Premiere. But yeah, it's interesting. Everyone's an editor now. But once I came here, I realized, I really am not an editor. I don't know anything. This is a whole different ballgame.
I think we're just talking about craft. You can be an editor, just you could be a bad one, I guess.
Yeah.
Or just in our world, like bad is just like a not thoughtful one, right? If you don't know how you're manipulating your audience, then that's what we're trying to do. I want editors who have control over their work and over their people. Yeah.
I talked a lot about that with one of the drama kids. That drama kid that guy that was really interested. And I was talking about how I'm learning a lot. Well, everyone's like, oh, how do you translate your drama skills into Post House? And basically I was like, well, I am learning a lot that is like very supplementary to what you learn in drama school, because in drama school it's all about you. And well, at least in Tisch it was all about like learning about yourself and like what you want to express and how to express yourself, nothing about the audience. So coming here and focusing mostly on, you know, how to affect your audience and how to make your decisions based on that, to best manipulate your audience. I don't know, make them feel.
You gotta find a better word for it.
Feel.
Yeah,
manipulate's not the right word. Best conduct
it's an
your
accurate
audience.
word. It's just, it has a negative connotation, so we need to like,
yeah,
that's all. You know, we are manipulating them, as in we are, you know, creating an environment that will lead their emotions, right? But we definitely need to find the right word. But I guess I want to say, as a last point too, and looking at that kid, is that people had looked us up, and there are some people, even at this very early stage, that, and our website needs a full rebrand and everything, that really like what our brand is, and they like the and again, it's rudimentary what we have on the website about puzzle piece storytelling. You know, it's a huge thing here, but like, yeah, people would come up who have checked us out, had specific questions, and were excited to see what we were about and excited about how we were telling stories. And they seemed also very interested in our company culture, which is definitely non-traditional it's for sure. And so it's just like, it was kind of cool to be like, I don't know, you know, I think we're the misfits, we're the loners, like we're the people that got passed on. And then I guess it was kind of cool to be like, there's a lot of other people that like connect with our vibe, you know, find your tribe type of thing. And
there was a moment where I looked over and you had this whole like 10 people or almost 10 people you were talking to, and they were like, they loved everything you're saying. And I was like, wow, I could see you on a TED talk or something on a stage, like inspiring a bunch of people. And I know that's not what you want, but I would force you to do it.
If I have to,
and
I will,
affect people.
Yeah, I mean, it was
cool.
It's something to learn, and I did tell them all to watch this podcast. So if any of you guys that were there that we met do see this episode, good for you, and I hope it brings you value, because we make it for you guys. It was actually, that was another fun thing where I was like, dude, I understand what they're saying, like, as an entrepreneur, where it's just like, dude, if you believe in what you're selling, it's just not it's not selling. I literally was like, you guys need to go to our YouTube. You need to check out my Instagram. Everything I'm making is like, all these questions that you have, all the fears that I see in you, like, literally, that's what I'm making content about. It is for you. For the love of God, watch it. I know it's going to help, you know? And I guess we'll just end with that sort of anecdote. There were two kids who I'm used to the patterns of working with younger people now. There were two people early on that looked really nervous looking at our materials, and I knew exactly what to say to them, and like I was like, don't worry, we don't have any high expectations or whatever. And they just like melted. They were like, oh my God, we were terrified, thank you so much. But it was weird. They were like, thank you for saying that. And I was like, what? You don't have an internship? Or like, I don't. Okay, yes, I'm glad that you feel better now. But it was just so funny to see like just how scared some of them are. And just like, you know, they just need to know that they're in a safe space, and then they tend to open up. It's very, very interesting and fun in that regard. So yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the whole thing about this week was timing. So there's good timing and bad timing. I feel like you said it a million times this week. What even happened though, timing wise? Was it?
Well. This week was definitely crazy. I definitely did talk about timing a lot. I will not share all the juicy details, but I will tell you guys something in regards to timing. That is, I don't even know how this is going to sound. This is going to be the most counterintuitive problem or something to have ever, but I know if any entrepreneurs are listening, they'll probably know and understand this. But essentially, we were running numbers for the year, you know, just getting ready. It's November. Trying to figure out what our plans are for next year. And all of a sudden, we realized that we made a lot of money. Too much money, which is a weird problem to have. Why do I say too much money? How is it a problem to make too much money? Essentially, we're profiting too much. So the government is going to take a large chunk of that. And I want to reinvest that profit into the business, but I do not have enough time to properly spend that money, right? Because the things that we would like to spend it on are like a new hire or something that's a monthly ongoing cost that can help us produce the things that we want. And obviously that's not going to be, well, it's not going to be enough quickly enough. Does that make sense? So we are in this crazy spot where we have to, well, we don't have to, but again, there's much better things to spend it on, in my opinion, than just giving it to the government. At least I want control over where I spend it, and I prefer to reinvest it back in the company, back into the people, back into the equipment, back into whatever. And now we're scrambling to figure out how to spend this money without any plans. So we're just like, it's been a huge added stress. I literally have not been able to sleep all week about it because I'm trying to make the right decisions, long-term and now short. And it's honestly been driving me up the walls, and I'm sure I'm driving Grace up the walls with me. But I'm curious, I guess, am I coming off differently? That's my real question. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen it twice before, is what I'm saying.
Oh, when? Do tell.
During Nature Made and during Snapchat. When those two things came in, the first time it happened was Nature Made.
Let's do some story time.
Okay. This is funny because when Nature Made came in, you called me at like 6 p.m. on a Thursday.
Let me give context then to set you up, just so people could.
Sorry.
Let me just give the context. So this happened about a year ago. Okay, so last year, most of the people that are at the company now weren't even here. We were smaller. And, for those who know a bit about advertising industry, usually the fall gets kind of busy. People are trying to spend their budgets before the end of the year. Same problem that we have, right? Now I get it. And they are also somehow, forget that Christmas happens every year and Thanksgiving happens every year at the same time. They all forget. So there's always a rush like right before the holidays to get holiday videos out. And during that time, we got a call to do very much that, some sort of an emergency type of project from a big agency that was going to be for Nature Made. The turnaround time, I believe, was 2 to 3-ish weeks top. It was going to be TV and web, and it was a sizable budget. It was a very sizable budget that would cover all of our overtime, all of our weekends, everything, to just basically work around the clock to get this thing done. And in addition, they were an LA-based agency, which means that they end at 9 p.m. and we basically had to make sure we were available till 9 every day. So going in, I knew it was going to be a bit crazy, but the money was for sure worth it. The client was for sure worth it. The relationship, everything about it was worth it. And the only thing I want to say before I let Grace kind of go in is kind of just a general reminder that if you're a young company and a young creative and a young entrepreneur, all of your best opportunities are going to come when somebody else messes up, or when there's just an extremely tight demand on a project, essentially where the person is forced to take a risk on something new. So that was basically what's going to happen. And you need to not be pretentious about it. Look at the thing, decide if it's actually worth it, and get ready to get in the trenches. Because if you get in the trenches with them in the beginning, they know you're for real. And usually it ends, you forge strong bonds. Anyone who's ever been on a tough film set knows this. So I decided to take the job, and then you can go on and
that was today's life hack. That was the life hack.
Take it. You got it. True story.
But so when Nature Made came in, you called me at 6 p.m. on like a Wednesday. And I remember I wasn't here full time at that time. And it was after school, and I was hanging out with my friends. I had taken a little bit of an edible. And so right after it hit, you called me, and I was freaking out. I was like, guys, do I answer this? This is my boss. I don't know if I should answer it. I'm high. I was freaking out. And then you were just like on the same wavelength anyway, because you had just gotten this big budget job, and you were just like, I got this job. And I was like, whoa. I was blown away.
I had no idea. Even know.
I never told you. Anyway, but so when that happened, it was kind of like a go rush. What do we do? And also when we got Snapchat for the first time, and
but what was your experience during that? Because I don't even know how long you were here. So like, were you here for the 9 o'clock nights and stuff?
No, I wasn't. But you asked me multiple times to like
be ready,
skip school to help you out. Yeah. you're like, I'll pay you 20 grand, skip school, come help me.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm glad you said that, because if anybody thinks that I was just trying to get you to skip your classes, like, no, I was willing to like pay and absorb it.
He was like, how much do your classes cost?
Yeah.
And let me pay it off. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I do think it's worth it. I just want to be clear, if people start thinking it's super weird, it's like, what brings more value, in my opinion? Just no. That's the question, and everybody can have a different answer. So like, I hope I'm not getting judged super hard for thinking that one thing might be more valuable than the other. But it was her decision to make the whole time anyways. I guess I'll want to share some war stories, because about why was it like stressful? It's like people have to remember that it's like that was going on along with our other client stuff. And my main editor was away in Taiwan, and there were lots of mistakes being made by the other guy working on it, who I will not name, and it all was happening in one shot, and I had to figure out also how to do my first live editing session remotely. And I don't really play around. I did not want it to just be a Google Meet with like choppy playback. So I actually did the research, and if people are interested in what is the actual smoothest, cleanest way to do it, I did figure it out. You have to I forgot what it's called. It's like NTS Tools or something. You make like a virtual monitor. You do the specific, I'll do this separately, or I'll leave a pinned comment or something. If you guys are interested, I'll tell you, because I figured it out and had an incredibly smooth experience on Zoom with headphones, communicating, and only showing them playback. See, that's the key. They have no problem screen sharing, but this was very much a professional environment where it's like they didn't see my timeline. They only saw playback, and it was rock solid smooth. So there was that. I was figuring that out while editing, basically the whole thing. So it was a wild thing. And I remember we paid $5,000 for a colorist on Sunday to get it done. That was a big thing. And then they were able to remote in with the colorist. And it was a whole combination of things. So shout out to the whole team involved, especially Aaron Doyle, who commanded the ship on the agency side, and just the team that was here. And let's not forget, I had to do that one. That's why it was the biggest stress.
Yeah,
I was
you wanted
editing.
me to come and just make sure you edited. Yeah, I remember. So then Snapchat too was like the similar deal with, this big thing coming in, and like the decision to take it or not was already a big deal. Like that took like a week, and that was like a week of stressful nights trying to decide.
Painful, man.
Laying in bed with an iPad and doing a whole graph of the money.
Wait, were you doing that? Because I was doing that. Or are you talking about what I did?
No, you were doing that, and you would FaceTime me and show it to me.
Oh, there. Oh, jeez. See, it's a blur
at like
to
9
me.
p.m.
Yeah, it's like a blur to me. But basically, for context, we have a revenue share deal. It's a lot like working on YouTube or anything else, right? It's like ads share. And I had never had that before, and the volume of content was a lot. We have 4 shows that we produce on the platform, weekly episodic content. And I was just figuring out what do we have to do? How do I expand the team? Who do I have to hire? What's the right system to do this? How much is it going to cost for us to do this? How much do I need to make based on how much it costs? And what is expected? How risky is it? And for those of you who don't know, and for context, we're in 2022 fall. This is just after Snapchat released 1,000 employees, cut their staff down by 20% and restructured. So I signed this thing in April, trying to guess, not knowing that this was going to happen. So we have gone through the ups and downs with the whole thing just in the 6 months we've been doing it. But I tried to do my best to remember what we were about and if this would be valuable for us long term. And you try to make this best decision possible, but I'm a slow decision maker, and I did not have time for that. Just like now. And that's what I hate more than anything, is if I have the time to think and then I become confident in making the right move, and then I go hard. And when I don't have time, then you see me turn into whatever I become, the Terminator or something. And it's just like relying on all of the years of experience and instincts that I've now built up through repetition to just power through. But I know that I'm already quick. I become extremely terse. And I know that I can come off extremely rude. And I just want to say, because now we have this third extremely intense kind of moment happening, and this time I'm kind of more, for whatever reason, just more aware of how I'm coming off. And there's like two halves that I've been struggling with. One half is like, I don't want to be a dick, right? I'm like, not, you know, it's not like what I want. There's that. But then there's the other half.
And then there's, I don't want to slow down.
Yeah, it's even more than that, because like I know how to go fast. It's to do it the way that I'm doing it and go fast and be good. At least for me. It takes too much time to explain. But what's been going through my head is, have I built this company culture well enough that I can be myself and can be rude for 6 weeks and crush it and then not? Do you know what I mean? And the people here just like get it. That's what I'm really thinking about, is like, did I just make Grace cry, or is she well equipped for this moment? Because it was always going to happen. They just haven't seen it yet, but it's always going to happen. I knew that. We were always going to be in the trenches. We were always going to have a firefight at some point. And I said it. I say it to everybody. I say, enjoy it. Work your 10 to 6. I'm going to call upon you one day at this company. It's going to happen to everybody. And when the time comes, I hope that you raise up your banners and fight alongside me in battle. I say it every time somebody new starts, every time everybody's having, like, you know, when you're at war, you prepare for peace. When you're at peace, you prepare for war. That's how I look at it. And so that's kind of what's happening now, where like there's all these different meetings with all these different people at the company, and like, just real talk. I don't know if you feel this way or not. Like, I basically yelled at you yesterday while I was next to my editor editing before we left. You know,
it's so funny because I've had other moments where I felt more hurt by your yelling than that. That felt like nothing.
See, good. I think that's because I'm hoping that's because you recognize the context is there, right?
Yeah, and I agreed with you when you said it. I was like, no, he's right. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but I also know I didn't say it in a nice way either. You know, like, I apologized when we were heading over to the venue, but I'm hoping that that the company understands that I'm doing everything I can for the company too. And if it means saying no to you, or if it means I'm being rude, it's not who I am, it's who I need to be right now. But I don't want people, obviously I want my team to really trust and believe in me and like me and believe that I'm steering the ship the right way and trust in whatever I'm doing. I hope that's what I want. And I just hope that when I'm in these moments and I'm being more aggressive than normal and more terse than normal, that people understand it and they don't hold, and they you know, because like, if it was, I just know how it would be if it was me, because you know what I mean. I think about certain people that I've been able to work with in my career, that we understand that this is the moment, this is the business. Are we getting this shot or not? We have to make decisions. We have to go. It's not personal. And then I've been in other times where I've lost friends because of it, you know. So that's all. It's just kind of in the back of my head, and I obviously was curious about your experience throughout the week and what it's been like for you. And this is the beginning. You guys have definitely, trust me, there's more to come, but like, us figuring this thing out has become paramount. It's like every waking hour, what's everybody's weekends looks like, you know, that's kind of what it's become. For me, this is normal. Like, this is always going to happen at some point, but I have such a young team that I don't think they've really been through things like, or not everybody here has been through something like that yet. And I think that, you know, Grace, like you in particular, because you're never here for the long edit stuff, right? Like, and that's just what I was telling, is like, now is your time. And none of the producers really have to deal with that. And I guess that maybe there is something to talk about in this realm, which is like, the management is always the one that's like annoyed about staying and working late. And it always blows my mind when I'm like, don't you understand that your team is the one slaving away most of the time? This actually happened like a year or two ago at the company. That's why we started doing our Monday morning meetings where we have everybody there, because there was a whole half of the company that had no idea just how much work the other half was doing, and did not respect that the other half was doing the actual work. Like, I was like, dude, the editors, I hope you all know, the editors make the money for us. And the way the project managers were acting at the time, like they were like, you know, like hot or something, you know? And I'm like, no, whoa. You work for the editors, bro. That's a big thing I have, which is like, the producers here, they work for the editors with the clients, not the other way around. And the producers never have to, honestly, they all complain if they have to stay late. And I'm like, are you for real? My editors never, ever. They know what they need to do to get the job done. And it was something that used to drive me nuts, that like now, you know, is hopefully something that I've definitely changed in the culture, where it's like, you're the leader, bro. Leaders, I just said it wrong. Leaders eat last is the kind of like mentality. Like, you got to take care of your people. And I think that's a really big thing in project management that does need to be talked about, because it's not as easy to see, you know? They're like, the editor has to. Why do I have to be here to send an email or whatever? And I'm like, you actually don't. You can let the editor do all the work, but you should send the fucking email and be proud and thank him and make him feel good and just be there with him as a team member, you know, rather than complaining that you had to send an email at 8. What about the guy who had to work from 10 to 8 in the edit room, all senses locked in, crushing it? I mean, I think a lot of people here have a lot of respect for what you do, which is something I know we've talked about in the past, where I'm like, there's not enough respect given to second in commands, given to assistants and things like that. But I think that at our company, there's a lot of respect for Grace, which there should be. And there should be respect for, like, you know what I mean? But I guess what it is we should be empathetic towards each other. I'm only talking to you about things that I've seen in my career, which is just a lack of empathy amongst teams. I don't think we have that problem here, because we talk about it all the time, and I hopefully try to remind people all the time about what it takes to get this thing done, that we're like one unit and we're not like separated groups. Like, the manager's jobs here depend on the editor's well-being, not if the client really got it on time. Like, yeah, that's your job, but if the editor quits on me, that's a bigger problem, you know? And you know, and a leader's job is people. That's your main job. You're facilitating clients, and you're making sure you're getting the most out of your pieces. And so I have such a big thing about that. That has nothing to do with you. You, by the way, and and anybody else who's ever been an assistant, I'm sure can attest, this shit is not easy. And yes, you are basically on call 24/7. But I need to be clear, because what I don't want people to mistake is that was the expectation that was set from the beginning. I did not tell her, you're going to have a clean 10 to 6. I said, I'm going to do my best, but you got to know what you're signing up for. And Grace, like, when you decided to go full time, you already knew I was a crazy dude, right?
That's what I signed up for.
Right. That's kind of how I look at it. So like the conversation, and I think that this is really important to have this thing for people to understand, which is like, when we set terms at the company with whatever it is, setting expectations is one of the most important things you can do. And in Grace's case, we thought it was a right personality fit, that because she would be willing to do these things and she would be happy to do these things, that it was going to work. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked her. I would have found somebody who would be happy doing it. So it's important to understand that when people talk work-life balance, there's so much context missing. It is individual. And how many times, Grace, do we have conversations about, are you happy here, more than anything else?
Yeah. We do talk about it all the time.
Right. Okay. And so that's the metric here. Are you happy? Do you enjoy your job, despite the late calls and the whatever? Because that's all that matters. You're doing something that you like, and you're making money for it, and earning a living and finding fulfillment. And like, that's what we're looking for. So I think it's important that we kind of clear that up, because I think people on the outside are going to see it as like, there's a big power dynamic. There are demands, she's scared, and that's why she's saying yes. I've had people email me like that, and I was like, no way, because we're too honest with each other to let that happen. I hope. Yeah. But I'd love for you to speak and not me on this matter.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
You gotta,
I don't know.
How do you see the relationship and the job? And how does it, like, what do you like about it? I think it's important that I'm curious anyways.
I mean, I guess I like the assisting you part of it. It's like, because we've talked about starting a new, like, Straight Shot Studios.
Happening, by the way, guys. It's happening.
Yeah. And so you were like, in that hypothetical, we'd have to, in that scenario, we have to find someone to spearhead Straight Shot Post, so that you can move over to Straight Shot Studios, and we'll keep, like, the editors in post, and then bring some of the project managers into studios. And I'm like, in that scenario, I'm like, well, of course I want to go to studios, because I'll follow you. So it's like, not my attachment to post, but rather to, like, I don't know, helping out the vision.
So I think that's the most important thing to sort of take away from this, is just that, like, timing is definitely all over the place. Good timing, bad timing. not putting too much weight on any given decision. And I'm just saying, I have a lot of respect now when I think about how even the bigger you get, the stakes just get higher and higher. So like, I feel like every decision that I make is like, it was a lot easier when it was just me. But now it's like, whoa, if I mess this up, there's like a lot more that I can lose. Not even me. I don't really care about me. That my whole team can lose. So I think that's sort of just what weighs on me in a different way. But I think that we have the right group of people to make some really good decisions. And yeah. Well, let's wrap this bad boy up, man. So I think you're going to get a couple of interesting episodes in the next few weeks because this week was one where sort of new problems came up and also where we had a lot of our passion and vision kind of solidified as well. So I think what I hope to see in the next few weeks is a level of decisiveness from us and some sort of clarity of vision. And I know I'm learning a lot along the way. And certainly doing more than I ever have in my life to also pay attention to how I'm doing it. Because I do think it matters. I don't want to make excuses for me having to be not the best person. But, I'm trying to go easy on myself. And I hope that my team understands and respects that. And as I do it more and more, I hope to get better, So, yes.
Yeah.
On that note,
I think we have a team that... Yeah. Oh,
No, girl, please. You need to speak.
Nah. Oh, I would say I think we have a team now. Because, before we had not a lot of turnaround considering it's a startup, but startup culture in general. You have different, turnaround with different employees and independent contractors and interns. But now we have like a pretty solid team that I think can float you across the sea.
Let's do it. And we're going to blow out the Christmas party like nobody's ever seen. Get ready.
Hell yeah.
All right.
I'm so excited.
Grace has to get the hell out of here, so we're skipping the question for today. She's a lucky one. Work hard, be nice, everybody. We'll catch up with you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.